Hello, Chris here with another episode of the Make It podcast, and this is an Indie Talk week, and that means I have my good friend and co-founder with me, Nicholas Buggs. Nick, say hello.
Man, I don't know what's going on. You on one today. My man Chris is loud and he's proud. I was like, you man said, hello. I was like, hi.
Listen, this is in a former life, people that have heard this podcast from the beginning know exactly what I'm about to say.
Oh, right.
In a former life, I was a stage musician. I understand microphones. I understand there's pre-recording tone. Sounds something like, so what are we going to do? And then there's, and then there's show. There's radio, the show voice.
Nice.
Show voice is for the audience. You got to bring it for the audience. That's all.
So you got me caught up is what you did. It's not lulled me in the pre-voice, and I was like, dang, man, I'm about to put on some Teddy or some, And
you know what? You actually have a naturally good deep voice. I wish I had that. I don't have that. You have it naturally. I have to perform a deep voice.
Yeah, but you don't need to, man. You got your own style, you know what I'm saying? That works for you because low like this. Yeah, man. But I played some Barry White for my wife the other day. She was like, "Dang, he's got a deep voice." I was like, "What?" I was like, "Hey, don't be talking about Barry now." You know what I'm saying? Like, you got. I felt a little jealous. You know what I'm saying? I was like, a little Secret Garden action, and she was like, "Dang,
Secret
woman."
You could be notes. Because you couldn't be as explicit back then. You were actually a little bit more nasty and perverted in the way you described sex in the vaginal areas.
Wow. Bleep, bleep.
The secret garden.
Exactly.
It just doesn't sound right anymore. But I do love Barry. I do love Barry. And Quincy, and look, you can do an imitation of Morpheus.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, of course.
Because you have that deep Lawrence Fishburne voice, that vocal where you get like this.
Hey, may I real quick?
Mm-hmm.
I know little tangent, but you said Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah,
so
Lawrence
Fishburne. Two things on Lawrence Fishburne.
Thespian.
One.
Lawrence Fishburne.
You didn't call him a lesbian, did you?
Yes.
Right.
Thespian.
All right. So first, I wanted to mention that in his early acting days, if you check the credits on his films, you'll see his name is Larry. And it's
Larry
hilarious.
Fishburne.
I'm like, Larry Fishburne? All right, second thing.
Larry was a cool name back in the day.
Oh, it was a cool thing. All right, but look, if you look at me, and then you look at
hold on, what the hell is Papa Bear doing?
I don't know what he's doing.
Bouncing around the screen, riding a seesaw.
I'm not paying attention what he's doing right now.
Jesus Christ, man! Can you just sit still so I can hear what Nick is saying?
Your man said, "Me looking at you is messing with my hearing." All right,
yeah, listen. I can't even hear him.
Let me go back. Okay, so look at me.
Is a ghost tossing and then you around?
Look at you.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
What you're seeing is the evolution of Lawrence Fishburne's skin tone.
Okay.
Bro, check it out. Watch the movies. Like, see what's going on. I'm like, man, how is he getting lighter over the years? It is very interesting. And like, I'm like, just go back, just do it. Just check it out.
Okay. This is fascinating. This is new news.
We're gonna have to do a poll on this. We're gonna have to put it out there. Like,
we need to do an investigative series of podcasts.
Was he darker then and lighter now? Watch anyway.
Or have gaffers just gotten better?
We'll see. I'm
like
check the pictures.
Like, I don't know.
You're gonna do it.
Editor Kate.
You're gonna go
Editor Kate. Editor Kate. Find us pictures of Lawrence Fishburne Larry Fishburne throughout time, and then please just put them on the screen for the listeners, for the viewers. Like, just pop. Let's just see like 5 Lawrence Fishburne pictures and see if he actually has gotten more light skin. Because people play with that though. Like, now I understand that you're saying something different, but remember back when the OJ trial was happening, they put him on that magazine cover and made his skin darker. And see, that tells you everything you need to know about American society, man.
Oh,
because he looked more menacing the darker skin he was.
Yeah, and maybe what I'm seeing isn't even just time. Maybe it's role. right? So depending on what role Lawrence is playing, he might be light skinned, but depending on what role Larry's playing, he might be dark skinned. So like I said, I'm gonna watch it. We're gonna show it, and y'all gonna see. Just
right.
let
Well,
you know.
we gotta check that out. I'm very intrigued and very interested about this. By the way, welcome producer Papa Bear to the podcast. Always riding shotgun on this thing with me and Nick.
Question: Did
Answer.
Michael Jackson get lighter over time?
But he did that on purpose.
Come on.
Yeah,
come on.
It's a whole. He did that on purpose. It's a different story.
That's not. Yeah, that's.
So
not,
you're saying
that's
this
a dramatic
is like
change in everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So this is like house paint fading. Lawrence Fishburne.
Lawrence Fishburne been in the sun too long.
You're right. Or the opposite, right?
Or the opposite. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
melanin
is it like house paint fading?
I don't know why.
All right, guys. It's been a great podcast. I'll see you next week.
All right. Lawrence
think
Fishburne.
We can end on that.
Fading.
Wow. See, with Michael Jackson, I showed my daughter a picture of Michael Jackson from the 70s, like off the wall, and then showed him Mike at Blood on the Dance Floor. She's like, "Oh, that's not Michael Jackson." I said, "It is. Look at his eyes."
That's Michael.
And she's like, "Oh my God." You don't do that with Lawrence Fishburne. You don't do that with anybody that's had a transformation. Michael had a real transformation. And before anybody at us, we love Michael Jackson. I was in the Michael Jackson fan club as a kid. I had him in that yellow sweater on my wall, a picture of him in that yellow cardigan on the wall in my bedroom as a kid. So, yeah, I wanted the zipper jacket real bad.
Everybody wanted the zipper jacket.
You see what I did there? Real bad.
Real bad.
Come on now. Slow today. No, let me do some housekeeping real quick. First things first.
That was a thriller.
No, stop it. Unacceptable punnage right there. Okay.
Punnage.
Yeah, and he'll remember this time that I said that to him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also
housekeeping.
Also unacceptable. Hey, I apologize for that. I apologize to listeners. I apologize to the viewers for that last joke. That was terrible. Okay. Housekeeping. Said like
what?
Let me take my robe off after I say it like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
like, what?
Housekeeping on this. We are recording this on August the 22nd, Thursday, August 22nd. So I just want to do some quick housekeeping. First things first, shout out to my collaborator. I've collaborated with this person a few times, and friend and filmmaking genius, Dicey Wildman, for a successful festival at Defy. I was not able to go to Defy this year because I was out of town, and I heard it went great. We'll have a few people on from Defy coming up very shortly to talk about the festival, talk about their films. So still doing our annual collaboration with Defy, but wasn't able to attend in person this year. Nick wasn't either, but shout out to Dicey. Second piece of housekeeping, shout out to Logan Christopher and the whole team with the 48. They had their 48-hour film festival rollout here in Nashville, where I am. And again, they had just an enormous turnout. I don't know how many teams, but last time I checked, it was over 50 teams entered. Wow. So the Nashville 48 actually is becoming one of the most successful 48s in the world, not the country, the world. So to have that kind of engagement 2 years in a row just tells you where filmmaking is going. And it tells you that more and more people are interested in being content, in creating content and creating content around story, which is what film is. So shout out to Logan. Hopefully we'll have a chance to talk to him. He's been on the podcast a couple of times. He had an interview, maybe intern Sam, producer Papa Bear. You can find which episode Logan was on last time, but he also did a mistake in the making. So if you guys want to check out Logan Christopher, sort of put a face to a name, definitely go back in the catalog and check that out. And we'll try to have him on to talk about the 48 in the coming weeks and months, I guess, or week and month. I think the awards for the 48 happen at the end of September. So we'll have there's a little time there to do it, but not too much time. Speaking of September 19th through the 25th is the Nashville Film Festival. This one is bigger and better than ever. Super pumped to put this on. We have some incredible films slated and programmed in. My short film, Scacaphus, is one of the short films that made it. Ted Welch, friend of the podcast, friend of ours. He's the guy behind Adult Interference, the feature film. And, he's been in a bunch of stuff from The Help to True Blood to what was the Scorsese film last year? Flower Moon.
Killers
of the Flower Moon. He was in that. So he's in 3 films. His short film got in, and he's in 2 other features this year. So it's going to be a very TED-centric festival. If you want to go to this festival, if you find your way to Nashville, which is just an awesome vacation, highly underrated in and of itself, comment in the YouTube space or that you want to go. Give us your email or a way to contact you. I'll send you a discount code so you can get badges for a lot less money. If you're listening to this podcast, go ahead and email me or us, I should say, at contact@bonsai.film. You can DM us on Instagram at _makeitpodcast. Or same thing there on TikTok, _makeitpodcast. DM us. Find a way to get in touch with us. Leave us a way to contact you, and we'll give you a discount code that makes those badges a lot less expensive. So again, 19th to the 25th of September, Nashville Film Festival. We're going to start running a trailer for them on our YouTube channel pretty soon. And we also have a podcast with the executive director, Jason Padgett, that you can check out if you want to know everything about the Nashville Film Festival. So that's coming up. And last but not least, and I think we're going to put this, I hope we get to put this, Nick, in our newsletter, but a friend of mine from the Women in Film and Television board, John Nagy, passed away this week. What a great guy. Producer Papa Bear, you got to meet him a few times when we did events for WIFT, which is Women in Film and Television. I used to be on that board, and he's just a great guy. I mean, he's a guy who really loved the pageantry of the film business, and he loved the people that did it, and he loved the art. He spent his life, the first half of his life, being a nurse at Vanderbilt University, and then the second half of his life he spent it in movies and film and acting and just trying to help people, brightening people's lives, trying to help people make it in their own right. And I don't know what caused him to pass. I need to circle back. No one's talked about it, but he was fairly young. I think he was only 62 years old. So rest in peace to John Nagy. You definitely had an influence on me, and I enjoyed being around you every chance I could be around you. So boom. Nick, do you have any housekeeping?
Well, as far as the festivals are concerned, we've got the PG Film Festival and the Chesapeake Film Festival coming up in Maryland at the end of September as well. So I'll be heading out there to have some fun with the local folks near me. So that'll be a good time. So there might be another opportunity between now and then to shout them out again. So we'll do that, and hoping to engage them a little bit more this year and keep up or build a relationship with the folks that are local. I've been, doing the Nashville Film Festival thing for a while and keeping those relationships up. And that's been great. But I think we also need to spread our wings a little bit up here
100%.
And be a part of the film community out in Maryland and DC, Virginia. So that's the plan for late September this year. And then we'll see what October holds. I think we have a couple up here as well. But I'll be checking those out. That's it. That's
more to come as it goes along, because there'll be a lot more festivals. AFM is in Vegas in November, so we got a lot more festival stuff to work on and to do. But I appreciate that, and you're 100,000% correct. Let's spread this, make it love all over the place as far as we can go. If we have to split the work to do that, let's do that. Papa Bear, give us some news, man. Give us some news for the week.
All right. Well, Screen Daily came out with a story a few days ago about the Animators Guild. and studios and streamers are continuing to talk in September.
Hmm.
While the Hollywood Teamsters and basic crafts unions agreed to new 3-year deals with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers at the start of the month, stumbling blocks remain before animators renew their 3-year master contract. And chief among their demands and guardrails are artificial intelligence. As the entertainment industry, like all others, contemplates the potential impact on this job
You
market.
said contemplates?
So contemplates how it's going to impact the industry. So what do you guys think?
I always thought the word was contemplate.
Hey, he just putting the emphasis on a different syllable.
Yeah, he put the emphasis on a different. Yes, that's right. I like that. That's his style. That's fine.
Good. Yeah. Tomato.
Ebonics, Esperanto. I like all that stuff. It's a good story, Papa Bear, because generally in film, animators were not considered in sort of these original contracts, whether it be for writing or for animating. They were just sort of always treated differently, as if they weren't like making movies. And the writer's side of that has worked hard to even the score on that. And then the animators, I think they really have to do well in this negotiation before they lose their leverage, before they lose the leverage to technology. And technology has a way of just speeding up, a process faster than you're ready to change, right? Faster than you're ready to make that, adjustment. So hopefully they get everything they want and more. I think the big question too is, how far away are we from being able to prompt an entire animated film, Nick?
Yeah, I guess it depends what entire means, right? And I think I'm just curious right now what the animators are concerned about when it comes to what aspect of their work will be replaced, right? That's what it comes down to, because you can't necessarily take a technical person, right, someone who understands the technology of it, and make them a creator, right, with the same type of storytelling vision, how these characters are supposed to interact with one another and look at each other. Like, there might be some technical aspects of, body movement, leveraging CGI type things in order to animate things that it's faster to do.
Yeah.
But I think that you still have to put those tools in the hands of master crafts people. So I think that I guess if you could say there's a lower rung that might be concerned, right? Not the upper echelon of animators. So I think that's part of it, is like, there will be some portion of us who are put out of business. I mean, just think about even, just going back to the actors and AI, if you're doing a training course on whatever, right? One of these, what do they call them? CBTs, right? Computer-based training. Well, if you can animate the voice just using text to speech, then you don't need a voiceover artist to do it. So that sucks. I mean,
that's what SAG was negotiating. That's what Justine Bateman was talking about. Like the fact that a lot of these actors had already given their voiceover to AI, to tech, to companies that own these AI companies, and they didn't know they had done it. They didn't know they had consented to giving their voiceover. And it's tough because I keep saying voiceover, but they had given their actual voice, the rights to use their voice to this technology. So now they don't even need permission because you already signed a thing that said, here, go use that.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be, so again, even if you're not giving your own voice, your voice can be replaced. I can get a voice that is like another voice and then use that. And yes, the voice over actors in those cases will be replaced. They also like to have humans in these things who are talking about, hey, click here, do this, or walk you through different content, where you can get an avatar to do that now.
Yeah.
That looks human-like. That it's not a human, but it's human-like enough for you to follow on. So now I don't need an actor to do that. So, but are you putting that same type of technology into your movie to replace your actor? You're not doing that, right? Part of it, I think, will be replaced, but I think it's it's not like everyone's gonna leave. You know, we're not
every
wiping out
animator
animators.
isn't doing a film.
Right, exactly.
So that's the issue, right? Like if you're not going to have a known voice, known entity in your cartoon series, then why couldn't it be an AI voice in an AI animation, right? It feels like the dream scenario for networks and studios is to be able to take a script that is written by a writing professional, and this is just short term because we already know that there's firms out there trying to recruit writers to train models on. And they're paying them like I think I heard this on Script Notes. Shout out to John August and Craig Mazin. I forget the name of the company, but they're paying writers $200 or $100 a day for 8 weeks or something like that, or 6 weeks. I can't remember the exact details, but they're paying them essentially a pittance in order to train an AI that's going to ultimately replace them. So it's ridiculous and fascinating, and no one should take that job, and it makes you want to vomit. But people are in fact going to take that job because now, will they be good writers? Will they be training as good writers, or training on good writers and in good writing? I don't think so. But is it possible that just continues to improve? Yeah. So I don't know. I think the sort of dream of studios is to be able to take a well-written script, load it up as a prompt, and get an animation out of it. Get an animated movie
I think
out of it with characters and everything.
It's how you define studio. So I think that
and
where we
streamers,
are today, I think where we are today, the definition of studio, I think we are seeing that there's studios that make art, and then there's studios that are, these tech companies that are leveraging art and artists to make money. So I think that maybe what we'll see is the more the tech companies that are the biggest of the streamers and the production houses, as they lean into that direction, then the people will lean out, and they're going to have to start creating their own avenues to get back to the art, right? And say, this is the type of stuff that humans need to really use those tools, but maybe there will be kind of a break and just say, basically, what is it? I've had enough, and I just can't take it anymore. I was like, I'm mad as hell. So I think that's what might end up happening is that we'll see next 10 years. It makes 5 years. It's just, hey, we're done dealing with you, right? This isn't what we want to do anymore. And we know that if we break from you, then you won't have these writers anymore. You won't have the artists anymore. You'll have a bunch of people you're trying to, train on tech, and maybe it just won't have a soul anymore. Yeah. And then maybe that changes things. I don't know.
And I think people the viewing audience has to understand that all this is in their hands. If they eat it and buy it, they'll make it. And if you don't, they won't. It's just that simple. We saw this play out in food. As more and more people became vegetarians and vegan in the food industry, they pivoted to that. Now you get organic farms. Now you get every restaurant, even fast food places, offer at least one thing that's supposed to be vegetarian. And what you're going to see is they're going to start offering vegan, even at places like Taco Bell or McDonald's or whatever, because the market is demanding it, and they will just follow the dollars. So this may end up being a theme of this conversation today, but really the power lies with the people. And I think sometimes the people forget the power lies with them. Papa Bear, is there, in that story, is there any conflict? Is there any pushback in these negotiations? Are the studios or networks saying, hey, we don't want to agree to this or that? Or are they pretty much on board with putting up these guardrails?
Yeah, I think they are. Everybody wants to solve the guardrails issue, so I think they're on board.
Okay,
but not in. There's no great pushback in this story.
Okay, yeah, we'll keep an eye on this. We'll keep updating it as we go along. PB, just like let's earmark that for a later conversations, because if they do push back, that'll be it'll be a shame. But it's interesting because I think at the end of the day, there is efficiency, there is money savings that you're chasing, but there's also what's your life going to be like? How do you want your work day to be like? When you meet the people you're working with, who are those people? Do you enjoy working with creative people and animators in this skill set? But we've seen that skill sets come and go as the world and as humanity evolves. And
Change.
so It feels like no matter what, there are creative jobs that are just going to not go away. The skill set won't ever go away, but will just be like a horse and buggy. Even if you negotiate this and you put it off for 5 or 10 years, at some point, it just won't make sense to have somebody come in and animate a whole movie for you when you have incredibly sophisticated tools that can do it. Okay. What's the, give us another one, PB.
Okay, there's a local story out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Warner Brothers has announced that it will commit more than $8 billion to partner with the University of Nevada, Las Vegas's studio called Nevada Studios that it leases. And there's only one catch.
Only one.
You can get this $8 billion if the state legislature will pass a film tax credit incentive bill, one that was introduced back in 2023, and they want it reintroduced. And so if they can get it, it's going to be, it's up for the regular session in 2025 in February. So if it passes, Warner Brothers will commit $8 billion to the Nevada studios, partnering with University of Nevada. And it's going to be renamed Warner Brothers Studios Nevada. So,
I have so many thoughts on this, but
what's the incentive? Like, what's the tax incentive that they're actually looking to?
Well, they don't really go into detail.
Exactly.
It doesn't say. I can tell you that the current incentive is 15% in Nevada.
Right. So
are they're saying let's take that from 15 to 30?
Yeah, they don't go. They don't go over. Yeah, they don't go over in the article about what was offered in the 2023 bill, but they're reintroducing it, and apparently
I'm curious about that.
That's enough to satisfy Warner Brothers, and they're putting $8 billion into the pot if it passes. So
I'm curious if that incentive is also applicable to development of the studio itself. That would be really interesting, right? 30% back on your 8 mil plus every film that you make. Like, okay, of course they're going to do that, right? That's a pretty good deal. But
plus you don't pay for the studio.
Right. So the other interesting thing, of course, if they, again, I really need to know what that tax incentive would be. But it's great because how does the tax incentive work? It's based off of people who are working and producing in the state. So then, well, where are you going to produce? At their own studio. I mean, that numbers game that they're playing, they're probably going to be, in the black within the first movie, the way they're playing that. So, we'll see how it goes. But I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the issues that's not being looked at is the role of corporations in making contingencies to force government into doing certain things.
Exactly what I was going to say, because the most important question in the world is why. And when you ask why Las Vegas and some of these other questions, well, you realize, they don't want to leave. California has a lottery system. It's not great to film in California, frankly.
Yeah,
it really isn't.
Moving out.
Yeah, but LA to Vegas is nothing, and that trip happens all the time. Like you can do a day trip to Vegas if you live in LA and be back home for dinner. Right. And so, let's make Vegas the new place where we shoot movies and we're not far away from home. It just makes everything so much easier and so much better. And we're just at this place now where everyone in power is just kind of like, yeah, you guys can off. What are you going to do about it? Like, to me, this just feels like open bribery. Like, I don't have to shroud it anymore. I'm just going to do it. I felt this way about government. This week the DNC is going on. A few months ago, the RNC went. They they just don't even hide it. They just tell you the corruption. They just tell you what they're going to do. And then they say, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sue us? What are you going to do about it?
I don't know that this is the handshake deal though, right? Where it's like, it's not even, I mean, you can look at it as bribery, and I kind of look at it as, it's a mutually beneficial agreement, right? If you make this concession, so they're not forcing their hand, they're just saying, hey, look, we're willing to come there to benefit us, and the benefit to you is jobs. That's the only reason that these states have these incentives.
It's a job program, yeah.
It's a job program. So now, and again, partnering with UNLV, it's funny, every time I say that, I think about UNV. We'll get into that later. But it's like you're partnering with them, that's a school, right? So now you can potentially get that job development, education, all that kind of a feeder program directly into the studio. You can potentially keep all of those skilled people there, right, in Vegas, as opposed to having to go somewhere else. So there's a lot of incentive to the state and to the city as well.
That's the whole point. They're highly incentivized to do this, and if you're a government official there, you get voted out if you don't take this deal. So I mean, yeah, you could say they're incentivizing them, but it's sort of a lose-lose if you don't take it. And by the way, universities, they're great. Obviously, we need higher education, but they are the whore on the street corner when it comes to donations and money. And they will just take the money. They don't care where it comes from. My own alma mater, MTSU, sort of famously and notoriously renamed their music hall after a guy who was the Bernie Madoff of Tennessee. The guy ended up killing himself, and they had to take his name off. But when he was offering $1 million of stolen money, they didn't investigate it. It's funny how if you were a student there, you have to pay. They really go through your finances. You got to do all these forms. You got to figure out how to get your loans there. Like, they really want to make sure you have the money. But if you're giving them money, suddenly there's not a really hefty due diligence process. It's kind of like, I'll give you the $1 million, put my name on the building. Okay. Done.
Yeah. Hey, Pitbull's about to get himself a stadium.
Yeah, Pitbull's got a stadium. Did they like say, well, Mr. Bull,
Mr. Bull,
we're going to need to see last 3 months electric bills. We're going to need to see that you are sound financially. If you can give us some bank statements and show us, 3 payments of mortgage, like no, there's like, we'll write the check. And if it goes through, we'll call it Pitbull Stadium.
That's right.
Like it's which is a badass name for a stadium, by the way. I do enjoy this idea of like getting to play in Pitbull Stadium. That's like a home field advantage. But I'm just simply saying that yes, we can soften it where the intentions are good, but the reason it's a story, in part to me, is that they're quietly saying, look at where we're at, to PB's point, right? Which is like, this is not this used to happen with lobbyists, and you wouldn't know about it until 5 years later. This is just out front. We'll give you nearly $9 billion. So 8.5 billion is not what it is, not 8. We'll give you nearly $9 billion, but we want a law to be passed. And to your question earlier, Nick, the interest rate will be whatever the voters can withstand, whatever they will take, right? If they offer it at 30 and they get pushed back, they offer it back at 28, and they're like, good, let's do it. Then the people feel like they won.
Yeah, well, I think
we get jobs and we get less taxes.
Yeah, but there's a difference also, I think, in the times. Everything is on the news. Right. Everything is in our face. Nothing is behind closed doors anymore. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. Like this is a slight tangent, but for example, I'll just say international conflicts. I get so surprised when I hear about what's happening. Right. It's like,
did you hear about the yacht? Did you hear about the yacht this week?
Oh, no. I'm talking about
like the splash tornado, the random splash tornado that killed.
Yeah. But you hear about all of these things.
The 2 tech dudes.
Yeah, but you hear about all these things more than we used to when we were younger, right? We didn't hear about a lot of this stuff and what was going on across
like that yacht thing. You wouldn't hear it.
Yeah. So now the other thing about it is that this story comes with $8.5 billion, right? That in itself is sensational. Yeah. So I think that's part
Isn't it weird? Isn't it weird that you hear that number?
Ballers type show based off of this. Because remember when they were thinking about putting
a
football team?
Okay,
you remember they're putting a football team in Vegas? It was like a whole show about stuff like this. I'd love to see a show about what it takes to basically take Hollywood to
and
Vegas.
put it in Vegas. It's a great deal for Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is fighting debt. They're doing everything they can to lean the ship and make it more efficient. So far, look, I don't know if they're doing that behind the scenes. I know that Max is a really good streaming channel, and they continue to sort of improve and improve and improve. And that's sort of the history of David Zaslav, is that he does that really, really, really well. So, I mean, you know, we'll see. Anyway, I was going to say 8.5 billion. I just think it's funny that, like, now when you hear money on the news, the numbers are so big. Like when you hear the national debt, it's in the trillions. When you hear the richest man in the world, it's, oh, he has $256 billion.
Right. Yep.
And you almost forget that 8 billion is so much money. It is so much money. And it somehow has a way of sounding like small. I can't remember whose net worth I was looking at the other day, or it got brought up or something, and it was like 6.9 billion. I was like, oh, he didn't do that well.
Yeah, because you look at the other billionaires and like, well, they lost that in the market today, right?
Yeah, so they just lost that in the market today, and it's all good. Yeah. There's a lot of factors that go into that longer conversation. All right, we got one more for us, Papa Bear. Something else in the news.
And is this one that we got to bring intern Sam on? I mean, I think this might be one of those, man.
I don't know.
Okay, intern Sam can
hop on
if he wants to.
This one is about, this is a Guardian story, The Guardian, and it's from July the 10th. And they're saying that we're all feeling sequel fatigue. Yet Hollywood is giving us Shrek 5. So
I need some Sam. I need some Sam in this, man.
So
come on.
I'm here.
Are we tired of sequels? If we are, why do we keep going to see them?
Come on now. I want to throw it right to Sam on this.
We're
man.
losers.
I'm just kidding. I think it's right to Sam.
I think it's tough because I think there's the element of nostalgia, right? That I think people are so kind of drawn in by, that they're willing to overlook some level of quality to kind of compensate for that. And so I think a lot of people love the idea of these sequels and love the idea of like a Beetlejuice 2, right? And then they're willing to kind of go see it. And even if it's not great, they're going to, either have seen it or be willing to overlook it, right? So you look at like a Deadpool and Wolverine. I thought that movie was pretty good. Especially as like a kind of a fan service, like culmination for what Fox did with those characters. But as a film, it doesn't really work, especially not to the level that the first two Deadpool films work. And so I think a lot of people got brought in by that idea of, here's Blade, here's, Channing Tatum as Gambit. Elektra, right? Wolverine obviously back. So I think that I think it's a fad. I think it's gonna come and go. I think obviously it's working right now with Deadpool and Wolverine, with Inside Out 2. I expect it to keep working with things like Moana 2. But I mean, by the time we get to Toy Story 5, I think time's gonna have run out by then.
Yeah, well, 4 didn't work. 4 wasn't great, right? So like 5. I don't know. Maybe there's a new opportunity for that.
You talking about Toy Story 4?
Yeah, I wasn't the
Toy Story 3 made me cry, man.
If you didn't cry, you're a beast.
You're a monster.
You're an unfeeling beast.
You're a monster if you didn't cry. Toy Story 3.
Right. Before with Forky, bro, that was not with Forky. So, but yeah, so the nostalgia is one thing, and I think there's this interesting thing happening with bridging the gap between the generations. I think that's what this is really all about. It's like we need people to watch. Now, whether that's like to your point, it may not be quality, but I'm going to get your whole family, right? Yeah. I'm not making the quality movie that's a drama, that's a thriller that I'm only going to get the adults to go to. And then I got to make separate movies for the kids. No, everything we do now, right? Or like 90% of it is going to be, I can get 10 to 100 ages, right? 10 to 100 will come and will watch that movie. And I think that's the goal. Get everybody to watch it. And that's how you do it. Because to your point, even if it's not quality, man, I might be going for that nostalgia, right? Or the kids, as Chris always puts this, he's like, kids are stupid, man. Kids are dumb. So it's like from the ages of like 10 to like 16, I would say, it's like candy, bro. Like they're just taking every sequel and everything, and they don't have.
What did you have for dinner? Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. What did you have for dinner? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 17, right? So it's like they're willing to take it because they don't have that taste yet that we have. So, but it's interesting because, one of the things that Chris recently shared, I believe it was Chris, was this whole idea of what Gen Z is watching. And I swear we hear a lot of this stuff from Gen Z talking about, I don't want the sequels and I don't want the superhero movies. And then you look at the data and they're going to see it all. They are consuming every last bit of it. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah. And I'm an offender of that. I mean, I see a lot of stuff, I see pretty much every big release. So it's not like it's special, but like I'm talking about this here. I saw Twisters. I saw Deadpool Wolverine. I saw Inside Out 2. I'm going to see Beetlejuice 2. Like, I'm going to see it all. You know what I mean? I'm part of the problem, right? I'm contributing. But like, and I think that that's a common thing. Because the other aspect of it is it's almost developing into trends. And so people, Deadpool 2 is the thing, or sorry, Deadpool and Wolverine, sorry, Deadpool 3 is the thing to see. You know what I mean? It's the event. Inside Out 2 was an event. And so I think that that's a different layer to it that is kind of even more bringing people in, kind of the TikTokification.
Are you even in the zeitgeist if you didn't watch these movies? I mean, I literally felt that pressure, Sam, by having not seen Deadpool and Wolverine yet. Mm-hmm. Right? I went and saw some other films instead. I saw Trap. I saw some other things. I'm going to go watch Blink. What's it called? Blink Twice or something. This comes out this Friday. I'm going to go watch that. I saw The Long Legs. So I'm going to see Deadpool. I am going to watch it. But there was this sense of, are you even in the zeitgeist? You haven't watched this film yet. You can't give your opinion on this film. Now, I was joking a minute ago when I said, because we're losers. The real reason is like the meat and three theory. You guys know about this meat and three theory? And it basically says that like you go into a restaurant, and one of the reasons like a meat and three works, outside of the fact that hopefully it's really delicious food, is that it reminds you of mom's home cooking or whatever. Right? Now that might be antiquated, but it translates into whatever you want it to translate. If you go to a fast food place and you want to try something different, you ultimately don't end up doing it and just order the Big Mac that you always knew. And I think that we do that with movies. We see the title, we see Shrek 5, and we say, I know Shrek. I like Shrek. That last Shrek made me cry. I'm going to watch this Shrek. And we call that nostalgia, but it's not really nostalgia all the time, is it? Because some of these sequels aren't old enough to give you nostalgia. Like, it's more like, I know that, I'm familiar with that meal, and I would rather get something I know I like than risk my dollars on something I might not like.
It's consistent.
This could be economic squeezing as well.
Well,
like you have less dollars.
Yeah.
It's very expensive to go there. Can you afford to go to something you're not interested in, or not sure if you're interested in? I don't know if you can afford it.
Oh, bro, no. That's something I won't. And that's the thing. I think if you're in like the industry, right, you're probably more discerning, and you might go to see the Deadpool and Wolverine, but you probably watch the trailers. You probably did all the things to prepare yourself. But if you're a casual watcher, you're doing what you said, right? I'm just going to go with the thing that I'm familiar with because I'm guaranteed not the best movie, but a good time, right? That's
even if I'm let down by the film, I was comforted by the context.
Right. Yeah, you're familiar. It's easy. It's like a warm blanket.
Yeah.
Sometimes though, you pick up a warm blanket and you realize it's warm because somebody's booty was on it.
Right. Listen, this is why breakups never take the first time. You got to break up with, if you've dated somebody more than 6 months, you have to break up with them at least twice. It never takes because they're so familiar. A week goes by, you get that
the
text
boomerang
message.
effect, huh?
Yeah, you get that text message. You're like, yeah, we can talk, and then talk ends up at now you're at her house,
Right.
and then
Netflix, chill.
Then the next day goes by, and you're like, God, I really don't like her. Or vice versa, and then you break up with them again, and you say, really, 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 it's not you, it's me. In that I think we do that with movies. I think also the movie business, Nick, and I don't know how much we want to touch on this because I know you have a culture check that might be similar to it, but studios just can't afford to make movies for theater that aren't going to make their money back. It just costs so much to market and make a movie that how many executives can absorb one or two bombs now in a changing industry? And when theaters are already down, theaters aren't going to distribute. They're not going to exhibit a movie that can't make that money and create that foot traffic, right? Because theaters are real estate businesses where you have to have, especially the chains, specifically the chains, right? Because independent theaters are a different kind of business. And we can talk about that if you want. But these chains have to sell food at scale. They have to have foot traffic at scale. And they're not interested in, After Sunset anymore. They want, which is a great movie. They need Marvel. They need the MCU to work. They need DC to work. They need these films to work.
I think
just to
that's,
stay in business.
Well, I think this is just quick. It's just I think something's interesting is going to happen, or was happening, and then Deadpool Wolverine came out, where these known quantities, so to speak, weren't working. Right, so you had movies like the Marvels.
That's exactly right.
Like last year was pretty terrible for Disney, and I think it was also. I think it was last year was also terrible for Warner.
Didn't Disney cancel Acolyte?
Of course they did.
Yeah.
Even though it got
Like,
really,
we were
really,
all
really
waiting.
high ratings. It got really high
what
ratings.
Who gave it? No, it did not get high ratings. I think it got high press.
We got high.
There was a lot of press because people were talking about
how much
they
Metacritic.com.
hated it. Yeah, it's 0.1. They canceled the heck out of that for 37 different
Producer
reasons.
Papa Bear, look up Metacritic.com and Acolyte and tell me what the Metacritic score is. No, so Metacritic goes from 0 to 100.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like my guess is that it had a high score.
It was terrible.
And then it had a terrible user score. That's
fine. That's what matters. But it was terrible, and it got poo-pooed on by so many people.
By the users, by the actual people that watch it.
It was getting trolled. But it was terrible.
But
but Sam, like when you talk about those things, like the difficulty with those that franchise stuff, the writing was terrible, right? It was woke forward, and I think everybody knows that. Like even Disney admits it. Even the folks who made Acolyte admitted it, right? They called it the gayest Star Wars ever. I mean, the people who wrote it said that. Right? This isn't. Trollers didn't have to say it. So
the actual creator came in and that was her goal.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is that when it's woke forward and it's not written well, like you can only take so much of it, right? If Star Wars, and Marvel, if they had done one, okay, but they kept doing it over and over and over again. And I think that's where the fatigue really was. It wasn't superhero fatigue. It was bad story fatigue. It was woke fatigue, right? So that was the concern. And that's why some of that stuff is getting canceled. And that's why you needed a Deadpool and Wolverine. You needed Wolverine. You know what I'm saying? And Chris you haven't seen it yet, but what I'm like, you needed that type of content to balance things out in the universe. It's kind of like when Eminem comes back and he's saying what he's saying. It's like, yo, wait a second. You can't say that, but it's funny as hell.
Hey, man.
You know what I'm saying? And the lyricism is tight.
That song Fuel by Eminem on his latest album.
Exactly.
Eminem.
Yep. And that's what I'm saying.
It balances two of the verses of the year. Both
it balances things out. So, yeah.
So what is it? Is Eminem and JID or JID? Yeah. Like,
yeah. So anyway, I think that's what is happening. That's what Deadpool and Wolverine was for the industry. So we can do this, and we can have freaking crazy amounts of fun. Because like Sam, I'll just tell you this: when I watch a Deadpool and Wolverine, I don't even get into some of the story stuff that didn't work. That's not what that movie was for, right? It is it's a college student's screenplay, right? That's how I kind of put it. Like that's who it's for. Just make sure you got enough butt jokes, you got enough fighting, you got enough stupidity, you know what I'm saying? And that's what it was. Like it layered all those things on. Make sure you're doing stuff that is, that'll get you Me Too'd, like all that stuff, because it needs to be the anti.
It's the antidote to the woke poison.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, I'll say one last thing about this, which is I think a lot of indie films are being made. I think a lot of tentpole films are being made, and that's evidenced by the deep library that Amazon Prime and Tubi have. And the whole thing is, could you have a theater that only showed Tubies? Could you have a theater that only showed streaming movies, and you could just walk into it every day for 99 cents? And popular somebody needs to invent that.
Sam's generation would make it work. Like he said, there would be a trend, there would be a thing, because it becomes a thing. It becomes something that is TikTokable. It's one of those things where you just get on and like, hey, we went to this little dive theater and we got these specialty drinks that 100%. You can't get anywhere else, and they're made just for each movie, right? There's something bespoke. There's something special and unique about it. And that could be a thing.
And you just play it on a loop. You just play the movies on a loop, just like that. All right.
Okay, Chris, I got your answer, guys. On Metacritic, and the way it works is that Metacritic averages the scores from each review to calculate a metascore, which is usually a single number up to 100. So it's an aggregate of all the reviews. And
this is why I like Metacritic more than IMDb and more than Rotten Tomatoes.
It has another element, and that's
plus Rotten Tomatoes can be bought. But anyway,
you know about the colors?
Don't sue me, Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, I know about the colors, but the audience might not. So explain that.
Yeah, it's displayed in one of three colors: red for negative, yellow for mixed, and green for positive.
Okay.
So you get a number. The number could be negative, mixed, or positive. So
with green being the best, positive.
Yeah, a green number of 100 would be like the best ever on reviews.
Yeah. Okay. Give it to us. Acolyte.
What about Acolyte?
Jesus Christ.
I didn't look that up.
He just missed the assignment. Like he put his name on the paper and he turned it in. He's like, "Is that my name?"
He didn't feel like
he didn't get the
multiple choice at all.
No, he didn't answer any of the questions.
We're gonna come back to you later, producer Papa Bear.
And after he finds out
Metacritic score for Acolyte. Thank you for breaking down how Metacritic works for the audience.
Well,
Sam.
Yeah.
Give us your polls.
Yeah. Yes, okay. Let's do it.
I got your answer.
As your punishment, you have to wait. You have as his punishment, you have to wait till the polls. Okay.
Yeah, the polls. All right, hit the polls, man. Let's hit the polls.
I have two polls, and they're pretty related to each other. They're kind of interconnected a little bit. So for the first poll, so for the first poll, what is the best rap or hip hop movie of all time? Okay, so I was kind of surprised by this actually. Number one was 8 Mile at 55%. Number two was Straight Outta Compton.
Wait.
Okay.
Just to remind the audience, the ones you're saying are the only ones available. They didn't pick these at random, right?
Yeah.
So you gave them options. Okay.
Yeah, for both these polls, I presented 4 options. So these are set in stone. So number 1 was 8 Mile at 55%. Number 2 was Straight Outta Compton at 31%. Number 3 was Get Rich or Die Trying, a movie about 50 Cent, at 8%. And then in dead last was All Eyes on Me at 6%. So I was kind of surprised, honestly. I really thought Straight Outta Compton would have had it like locked in, but I don't know.
I'm surprised you're surprised. Eight Mile is the winner here.
Exactly. Hold on, wait a second. So what was the name of the poll again?
Okay, what is the best rap or hip hop movie of all time?
So like rap or hip hop. So it has to be like there has to be rapping because you know, Chris, what's interesting, one of the movies that comes to my head that you wouldn't necessarily say is a rap or hip hop movie, like in the fact that it's not speaking to
Belly.
like they're not rapping. There you go. You got it. See, you're not. It's Belly. Like it's got to be in there as a rap and hip hop movie, even though they might not be rapping in the movie. Belly, honestly, it's one of the top ones. Okay, the second one that you probably don't know about, which is why you didn't put it on there, is Brown Sugar.
Mm-hmm. Like, I've heard of that before,
bro. I mean, to me, that's gonna be like probably number 2 after 8 Mile. To me, is Brown Sugar. And then I would probably throw Belly in there as number 3 because you're not rapping in Belly, but it is the hip hoppiness movie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like all the actors, like and what they were doing. It would have to be Belly. But anyway,
just to make Sam's point a little bit, Straight Outta Compton is the critical darling of them, even though 8 Mile is also a critical darling. But I think when you think about movies that rap, where it was really about rap culture, 8 Mile is kind of the break-in of hip hop movies.
Exactly.
Right?
Well said.
So all right. What's your next poll, Sam?
Okay. So for the next poll is kind of like a continuation of that. It's which rapper or rap group would make for the best biopic. And so, unsurprisingly,
and thank you for saying biopic and not biopic.
Of course.
Thank you.
I've made that mistake enough times to know the difference. Unsurprisingly, number 1 is Kanye West at 54%. Number 2 was Lil Wayne at 23%. Number 3 was Jay-Z at 14%. And then number 4 was 3 6 Mafia at 9%. So this one honestly played out about how I would expect it to, especially with things like the Genius documentary, which is excellent. Kind of could lay the groundwork for a really interesting film or set of films.
I thought Jay would have been higher, to be honest. I think there's so much in his story, and going from where he was to basically to a billionaire, is a different. Now, of course, Kanye is a whole different level of, I just say crazy. That might make for a more interesting story, right? Yeah. But I think that there's so much with Jay-Z over time, and the records that he's broken and the things that he's done for the industry. There's a lot to peel back. But hey, if you're number 3, it's all good.
Yeah, and the thing I was going to ask you, Nick, is anyone there that we left off that would be even perhaps more interesting?
Well, I was going to ask him about Eminem.
Would Nas be interesting? Would Eminem be interesting? Would Busta Rhymes be interesting?
Yeah, I have a couple that I didn't include because I thought that kind of it wouldn't necessarily be as people wouldn't gravitate it as much. But I think Mac Miller would be a great example.
I think that he has a doc. I think he actually has a doc too.
Oh, I didn't know that actually. Interesting.
I think so.
But I know there's a lot of interesting stuff with him. Kind of his backstory and stuff. Chief Keef.
Logic.
Chief Keef and Logic's another great one. I think Logic would be interesting. I think Chief Keef would be great. Gucci Mane. People like Young Thug, especially where he's at now and kind of.
You love Young Thug.
Goes. I do love Young Thug. That is, I think Young Thug.
Get off Young Thug's pole.
Yeah, I'd be interested in Logic. because
He's from
here.
Maryland.
He's from my neighborhood. He's like he's from Gaithersburg. You know what I'm saying? Like not from my neighborhood per se, but he's from my city. So yeah, when he talks about my city, the way he talks about my city, I'm like, man, where's that at?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because when he talks to him, I'm like, I've been in Gaithersburg a lot. Like, where is all this crack smoking happening?
Right, exactly. I'm like,
and why hasn't it taken me there yet?
You're right.
Crack is delicious.
But, yeah, but hey, what about J. Cole? Like, you could have
J. Cole.
You could have a I mean, you could. I mean, honestly,
Drake.
Think about it.
Can we say Drake?
Yeah, you can say Drake. You can say Kendrick.
I think that they're.
I think you should do Drake. I think you should do Drake. I think you should do Kendrick Lamar, and I think you should do J. Cole, and just put that poll out. See what happens.
Yeah, let's put a competing poll out. And look, just for the uninitiated that don't know in the audience, most people do. The reason Notorious B.I.G. and Tupac weren't mentioned is they already have biopics out. Obviously, Hollywood thought those are really good people to do a biopic for. I'm not sure either one of them was what we expected. So if somebody does a better one, that's great. These biopics are tough, right? Like whether it's Steve Jobs, that a lot of people at Apple didn't like that, but it seemed like the world liked it. I'm not sure how many people at Facebook liked the Social Network, but I think the world liked it, right? That was a very, very popular movie, and we've got some coming around the corner. We got Elon Musk, Aronofsky's doing that. I cannot wait for that. So you're combining Elon Musk and Darren Aronofsky. You just answered a riddle that's been rolling around my head for a long time. So there you go. Anyway, this was very, very good. I enjoy these polls, and I think for the most part, they sort of ended where we thought they would end. I have to say though, with all the rappers we named after Sam announced the poll, Nick, it's like the answer's still Kanye. But I think we have to wait and see how the story ends, right? I think if you'd have told me when Michael Jackson was 40, and that's our second Michael Jackson reference of the episode, but if you'd have told me when he was 40 that he'd die at 50, I would be like, you're crazy. Like Michael's the kind of guy who lives to 99, right? He's like George Dolly Burns. Parton. He's like Bob. He's like Dolly Parton. you wouldn't have had me believe he was going to die at 50. Does Kanye West? How long? Like, how does the story end? Is something we're all waiting for. And when it does end, however it ends, it's going to probably end in the most Kanye West way ever, and it'll make for a great film. So, anyway, my 2 cents. Sam, I appreciate you, man.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Anytime. That's intern Sam, folks, with his polls. Nick, I know you have. We touched on this. His intertwining related polls. I know you had touched on this earlier in the conversation, and we didn't want to go too deep into it because I know that part of what you were talking about you were going to expound upon in your culture check. So yeah, well, I don't know if now's the time or if you're going to do it in 2 or 3 seconds, but maybe you should drop one of these on us.
No. But what I was thinking about culture check.
Knocked off glasses.
There you go. Exactly. So look, I want to flip it a a bit because there's another topic.
We should do that sometime. Right. When he says it, you should knock your head back and have your hat fly off,
glasses fly off, and everything.
That'd be a nice effect for.
No, man. I think this one is back to and this is going to be a short one. It's really a callback to something that we've talked about a lot on this podcast, and it comes from that.
Callback on the culture check.
That's right. From the Matt Damon thing we watched when he was on Hot Ones. He was talking about movies that he used to love, making or being a part of, like in the 90s, where it was really about the art.
Well, so what happened was the DVD was a huge part of our business, of our revenue stream. And technology has just made that obsolete. And so the movies that we used to make, you could afford to not make all of your money when it played in the theater, because you knew you had the DVD coming behind the release, and 6 months later you'd get all, a whole nother chunk. It would be like reopening the movie almost. And when that went away, that changed the type of movies that we could make. I did this movie Behind the Candelabra, and I talked to a studio executive who explained it was a $25 million movie. I would have to put that much into print and advertising, right, to market it, what we call P&A. So I'd have to put that in P&A. So now I'm in $50 million. I have to split everything I get with the exhibitor, right, the people who own the movie theaters. So I would have to make $100 million before I got into profit. And the idea of making $100 million on a story about like this love affair between these two people, yeah, I love everyone in the movie, but that's suddenly a massive gamble in a way that it wasn't in the 1990s when they were making all those kind of movies, the kind of movies that I loved and the kind of movies that were my bread and butter.
And things have changed so much. And the primary thing is this thing that we talk about on many an episode and we've heard validated multiple times, but I think it is important because of our indie audience, which is you make a film for 25 million.
Yeah.
You're going to spend 25 million in P&A, right?
Yeah.
In marketing. So when
If
we
not
say
more.
that you're spending, right, but exactly, when we're saying that you're spending 50%, what we're saying is you're spending 50% of the total budget. We're not saying you're spending 50% of what you spent on production. So he's not spending 12.5. He's saying, I made it for 25. I have to spend 25 in marketing. And I think it's important because I guess it really depends on what you're trying to do with your film. As an independent filmmaker, you got to think about it. If you think you can raise that 200,000, can you make your film for 100 and then market for 100? Right? We know the incentives they work. The incentives work against you a little bit because they won't cover that marketing, right? That P&A. But look, basically the question is, what are you trying to do with your film? Mm-hmm. That's it. If you're making art, don't spend anything on marketing. Just tell your friends about it. Go to a festival here and there. Just do your art. Great. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. It's cheap that way. But if you're trying to make a living or trying to make money or trying to, make a blast with this film, then think about that. How much do you think you can raise? Cut it in half. Make the film for half. Use the other half for marketing. And again, this isn't coming just from us. We've heard it from multiple guests who've been on here. We'll have to put a clip on there or at least a pointer to what Matt Damon was saying on Hot Ones. So you don't have to listen to us or just us, right? You can also listen to somebody like Matt Damon who just puts it out there for you. He's like, this is what it is. Yeah. This is the matter of fact. So just again, back to the, independent filmmakers out there, like it doesn't sell itself. That's not how this art works, right? You have to sell it. You got to put it out there. You got to tell people about it. Yeah, way too competitive, especially now, right? We're not in the 90s, right? This is something different. This is streaming. This is 24/7 content across, I don't know, 1 billion people making content, right? Across 1 million platforms to consume the content. Honestly, I wish I knew the number of people who are creating across the number of platforms that they can distribute per minute, right? The amount of content is just, it's unfathomable, right? So I think that's it. So again, if you're going to make these films and want them to be successful in the market and even successful pieces of artwork that people consume, you got to rethink the way that you go out and you get the money for your films.
Yeah, 100%. And how about if you want to make a career as well? So you said make money, make a blast with it, whatever. Like, how about if you want to make a career? Because if you want to make a career out of it, you need to have the film be notable. It needs to have a lot of reviews. It needs to have made money. And one of the interesting things about this is that we hear a lot that indie films don't make money or didn't make money or the distributor didn't do what they said they were going to do and market it and all these other things, when it's maybe we've never judged independent film profitability correctly, right? Like because independent filmmakers keep repeating the same playbook that doesn't work. They keep running the same play and it hasn't worked and they're not changing it. And if filmmakers hear this, if they hear one thing, it's that, like, don't run that playbook. If you raise $300,000, then plan to spend $150 on marketing and P&A. And here's the thing. When you say that to an independent producer, especially if they're first-time filmmakers, that is like, they almost like want you to, like they want you to run to the door, or they're going to run to the door. You almost disqualify yourself as an expert when you say it to them in their mind.
Yep.
And it's this really weird thing. Yeah, it's like it's farcical for them to spend. Wait, I raised all this money to put into the movie so I can make the movie, so we can have the budget that the line producer created, right? And the other producers and the brain share pitched in on. And now you're asking me to take a half of it and put it towards this thing I didn't even have it in the budget in the first place. It's like somewhere in the contingency line item.
Right. You got to rethink. That's what I'm saying. We're saying,
and I'm like, yeah, we are telling you that.
Yeah.
Because that's what studio films do to become profitable, because they realize it's too competitive.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that, like,
there's too many choices for people.
Listen to us now, or tell us we were right later.
Yeah. That happens.
We're trying to help. That's what I'm saying. We're trying to help. Like,
that's happened a lot.
It happens a lot, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the truth of it. You listen to us now, take the advice now, or come back after you're done with this film and it doesn't do what you wanted it to do, and the distributor doesn't do
you didn't
what you
level
thought
up.
They were going to do when you weren't listening. They told you they weren't going to market,
Yep.
right? So, okay, just come back later. But we're trying to tell you now, just make sure you're focusing on that marketing budget, even if you don't get it back as a tax incentive. You're trying to get it back in eyes on your film.
Eyeballs,
you're trying to get it back on in reviews and ratings,
your career.
and influence. Exactly. Get it back that way.
The whole culture check just hit me with this thing that I haven't really considered or said on this podcast before, which is, I don't know if us or any of these other great people in the industry who have done some really deep dive analysis of independent film profitability. We had a link to an article that was one of the best I'd ever seen. I think that came from Gotham, and shout out to the Gotham. But I think it came out of there. If I'm wrong about that, forgive me. I'll try to find it. But it really was a deep dive on profitability for independent films over the last, I think, 5 to 10 years. And your culture check made me think that maybe that whole thing in a way is invalid, because what we really want to know is how many of those movies marketed their films in the studio fashion, and how many just did a straight indie film where they spent every dollar except contingency on the movie. And then compare that. And then whatever that delta is, that is the hardcore smackdown to the old way, or the way you get taught in film school or whatever. Like, that's what we really need to see. We need to see the delta between indie films that market hardcore, like studios, and indies that don't, and see if it's actually true.
Yeah, well, I'll also give you this.
My instinct is that it's true. I've seen it be true.
Yeah.
But we need that hard data and an analysis just to say
there's
hardcore smackdown, period. If you don't market your film, your film is going to fail.
Yeah, but there's one more factor.
Financial.
Right, that you always have to put in there. And this is the factor that it basically is the horror factor, right? So that is an area where they spend the least amount on the film, which is the smartest.
The most in the marketing,
right, and the most in the marketing. Or
why do you think
they spend the least on the they spend the least on the film?
Why do you think we knew that even existed?
Exactly, or they spend the least on the film, and because the horror audience is so, I would just say, insatiable. That if you actually make a really good horror film at that low price, someone's going to see it. As in, one of these major distributors is going to see it, and they're going to pick it up and they're going to run with it. So what I think happens in the indie space is, unfortunately, they see that as the example of how they're supposed to operate. So they make their drama, they make their comedy, they make their thriller, they make their rom-com, and think that they can get horror movie success because they don't think about it as a horror movie with an insatiable audience. They're thinking about it as an independent film. And like Kendrick Lamar said, they're not like us. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's different. It's a different model. So I think,
and I'm not sure all those filmmakers. Yes. Okay. So there's some point to be made there. I don't think all filmmakers feel that way. I think they know Like, can I do a horror? Maybe that's not for me. That's not the film I dream about making. I think the indie filmmakers sort of organically, when you're making a film, and even for us, we've always been involved in the films that made us laugh or broke our heart or made us cry or we thought were interesting and had a concept. And I think they go into it that way. They want to, especially first or second time filmmakers, they're making the thing they want to make. But where I agree with you is that with horror, some of the marketing is actually baked in. Some of the things that are exciting are baked in, right? Because if you make a drama, because that's the story you know and you can tell well, what's going to sell? And I'm stealing a little bit of this from Lyndon Nelson, CEO of Indie Rights, but what's going to sell better? A poster with a scary man on the front and blood dripping off a knife, or two people holding hands on a beach?
Yeah, right.
Right. Like, so
Yep.
Even horror has a lot of its marketing baked into the poster, the key art, and the concept of it. And so they get done a favor. And then on top of that, it doesn't cost a lot to scare people a lot of times. I always thought
but I think they also do spend more money on the marketing. I think that's the
and
truth
they
of
spend
it.
more
That's
money
why
on the
they
marketing.
spend less
Period.
on spend less on the production, spend more on the marketing, and feed an insatiable audience. And I think that there's definitely an angle for that, as well.
But I also
again,
think
more
too,
filmmakers can't think that they're going to be like these horror movies.
Horror lends itself to the marketing story better. Yeah. So when you made a horror film, you can see how you might market it. Whereas if you made a drama, you're like, well, who am I targeting? And that's when you need to hire us.
It's a much
or you
more
need
targeted,
to hire a marketing firm, or you need to figure out a multi-step plan to really hone in on what audience does like that and who would actually turn that on and click on that, and what kind of marketing you have to present to click on that. What was that trailer? There was a trailer recently that was being I don't know if it was like criticized, but basically the movie was different than the trailer. The trailer made it seem like it was going to be.
It was a guest of ours.
Yeah. I think that episode didn't come out yet, but yeah, it was Mike Day. Mike Day was talking about. Shout out to Mike Day. He was talking about how the trailer kind of feels different than the movie, and for some people that's okay, and for some people it's a surprise. But he's smart enough to know that I've got to sell this thing.
Right. Yep.
So to me, I'm like, genius. I wish more people thought like that. It's your art. It's your movie. It's your thing. It's not a congressional hearing. You don't have to have your hand on a Bible and promise this is exactly how the things. I've seen trailers from major motion pictures that had cut scenes, meaning scenes that are not in the movie, in the trailer.
Yeah,
because that trailer had a star in it.
Yeah, and you're sitting there waiting for that thing. You're like waiting for that. You're like, I didn't see that scene, man. Let me play the trailer again. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, and it's not that I say that's great. I'm saying, but you work with what you have to make it great. So anyway,
well, again,
incredible culture check. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll drop that and just say market. Make sure you're spending the money in order to get the return on that investment.
Yep, 100%. And with that, I think we did it.
Producer we gotta get PB's answer. We gotta get PB's answer now.
I was supposed to say, PB, can you drop us can you drop the mic on us with this accolade? Well, not accolade.
Yeah.
Acolyte.
Review for Metacritic. I got my fingers crossed. I think I was right about this.
You want to guess what it is?
Yeah, let's guess.
34.
Nick's guessing 34 Metacritic. Now this isn't user. This is critical. I'm guessing 69.
Okay, and what color?
Well, 69 in Metacritic is a yellow, but it's the top yellow. And 34 is definitely red. So,
yeah, right.
Well, the answer is green, 67.
Okay, 67. Okay, so I was wrong about the colors,
close
but
with the 69, but
yeah,
but he went over, so he lost. So my bad, dude.
I did. So, like I told you,
closest without going over. Yeah.
Favorable reviews from the critics.
Yeah, whatever.
But the people who actually watch Star Wars and know the storylines and know the inaccuracies. Shout out to intern Jada, who we had coffee together, and she broke down for me step by step every inaccuracy in that show.
Yeah,
and she was like,
it's stuff like that.
She told me, she said, the world is trying to tell me it's because I don't like the diversity in it.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm here telling you I didn't like it because it was wrong.
Right. Yes. It's terrible. Like,
it was wrong about a bunch of
stuff like this. Yeah. Yeah.
And so anyway, the people have spoken.
Yes, they have.
Yeah.
And it's gone. And it is gone, rightfully so. And hopefully they don't do stuff like that again. I'm hoping that they learn from Deadpool, Wolverine. Like, this is what the people want. They want something like literally left turn. Just go somewhere. Maybe it's not a left turn because it's already left. So don't want to call it a downturn. That wouldn't be right. But anyway, got to turn somewhere.
It's like an independent turn.
There you go. Yes. Turn the other cheek.
Thank you, Papa Bear. I appreciate that. We appreciate it. And thank you, Nick and intern Sam, for another illuminating conversation. And thank you to the viewing and listening audience for sticking with us and supporting us the way you do. It's always, always appreciated. If you want to know more about what we do and how we do it, and you want to get in touch with us, that's so easy. Just about everywhere on social media, from TikTok to Instagram to X, formerly Twitter, we're _MakeItPodcast. You can find us on our website at www.themakeitpodcast.com. You can also find us at bonsai.film. So either of those websites will work. We have lots of goodies for you. Movie Money, the newsletter, or the ebook, I should say. We have our Indie Insights newsletter you can subscribe to on those websites. You can check all of our back episodes on those websites. So there's a ton of different ways to get in touch with us and to engage with us, and we appreciate all of it. So every comment, every DM, we reply to 100% of the engagement. So keep it coming. We really enjoy it and enjoy you guys' engagement. Keep engaging on the polls and on the shorts. We're definitely, it's not a bot. It's not I know we have some interns, but it's really me and Nick reading every one of those things legitimately. So if you want to get at us, we are the ones actually responding to all that stuff and reading them. If you want to get to us directly, you can email Nick at nick@bonsai.film, and you can reach out to me on X at flamingyourheart, or you can just search for Chris Barkley and I will come right up. And again, we answer 100% of those comments and messages to us. So keep that coming. I think did I leave anything out, Nick? Do we have anything else going on? Any other church announcement and stuff like that?
We're good at the end. I think people know how to find us. They're listening, they're watching.
You're watching on YouTube, content. You're listening on Apple, you're listening on Spotify. We're all over the world now. I think we just got added to Ghana. So there's Ghana, the country. So I don't mean like we got added to Africa. I mean like there's a podcast place called Ghana. It's like Ghana. G-A-A-N-A. How would you pronounce that, Nick? G-A-A-N-A.
I think we were on them before, to be honest.
Yeah. And now we just got added back. So
back on there.
All those people, I think in India and in Indonesia and that area, welcome back. Welcome back to the Make It podcast. They appreciate it. So with that, Nick, do you want to leave us with the credo?
Of course. And big thanks out to PB and intern Sam. Appreciate you very much. Chris, I like the yellow, and I was just smiling to myself because I'm like, dang it, the two of us together look like a flipping McDonald's commercial with the red and the yellow. That's the third McDonald's reference of this episode, by the way. Now I'm hungry. Yeah, I'm hungry. I'm starving. Food. I'm starving. All right. So to our filmmaking
we look like ketchup and mustard.
Yeah, our family out there, ketchup and mustard. Hurry up, go catch up. I'll say be better, be creative, be engaged.
And thank you for listening. Nick, PB, talk to you soon.
Yep, we'll do it.
All right, guys, talk to you soon. Appreciate you, Sam. Love you guys.
All right, folks.
Peace.